It's Buddy, oh Buddy, he's cuddly, snuggly, our best friend. It's Buddy, oh Buddy, he's our friend until the very end. It's Buddy! Buddy is the latest horror film from filmmaker Casper Kelly, who did the VHS Halloween entry Fun Size. If you remember Fun Size and you remember my review of VHS Halloween, you know that I love that one, so I was certainly interested to see how that would go. By the way, the reason I had the producer here, besides for the intro, today is his gotcha day. 9 years of you being here. 9 years of you, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You're a great kitty. You're a great kitty. I also just wanted to have him here because I don't have a stuffed animal anymore. They all kind of got damaged, and also I'm 45 years old, and I just figured a live animal is just as good. He is my friend until the end. He is my buddy. You are. Owl. You don't want to be part of this anymore, do you? Okay, you know what? I'll let you out. Yeah, you need to go out. Okay, it's okay. Let's let you out. Come on. Okay, goddammit, let's get back to this particular review. So, Buddy, yes, is from filmmaker Casper Kelly. I really did enjoy Fun Size. It was actually a way better entry than I had any right to be. And also, this was written by Jamie King, who's done some television, also films like World's Best. And what is Buddy? Buddy is something that you call your very best friend, somebody that will love you until the end, for better or worse, and you better love Buddy, because if you don't love Buddy, Buddy is going to tell you what for. So, for those that are unfamiliar, basically is a kid's show set with a stuffed, a stuffed animal, aka an orange unicorn, that does come to life in a Barney-like, atmosphere where there are some children. It's on a set. There's a talking mailbox. There's a mailman. There's a happy-go-lucky rabbit. And, it's just a whole lot of fun and everything. No, it is not the Firefly Funhouse. No, it is not Monkey's Merry-Go-Round. No, it is not the kids' mascot stuff turned horror films that has been not necessarily a dime a dozen, but there have been quite a few entries. This has a familiar yet also fresh spin on it. It understands what it is. It doesn't try to deviate away from that. It's just a fun, raucous horror comedy that really just has an overwhelming sense of dread from the beginning, but you're just having so much fun with it that you don't want to believe that this could turn really badly. By the way, this was the AMC Scream Unseen. It was either this or I go watch a special screen of Idiots at the Regal in town, and I decided, why not? Why not give this a shot? And it was either going to be this or Onslaught. Actually, it pretty much was only going to be this, and I was happy to sit down and see what it was. So, basically, we have a few kids. We have Freddy, played by Delaney Quinn, who I think was in I Can Only Imagine 2, according to her IMDb. Honestly, as far as a kid actress, I think she does pretty well as the lead kid here. And also we have Buddy, voiced by Keegan-Michael Key. I do have to say the guy that plays him in the suit, very well done. And also we do have other people in the cast, Topher Grace, we have Michael Shannon, and we have a couple of others. We really just go through a few episodes of the show before things take a bit of a shift. And while it's a bit rough around the edges, admittedly, and there's a bit of familiarity, it also has enough of a fresh coat of paint that you can't help but enjoy the vision by Casper Kelly. I do have to say, pretty good acting overall. Yeah, it's a bit silly, and there are a few rushed points. It almost seems like it's trying to be a little bit too busy for its runtime, especially with the fact that it goes a bit before we get any kind of shift. But it ends up working. I ended up finding a whole bunch of entertainment in it. I liked the splatter violence when it eventually kicked in. Unlike Monkey's Merry-Go-Round, that was pretty fun. And that's on Screenbox, or it's either on Screenbox or Amazon, one of the two. That one had a good central theme, but it almost felt like a short film concept stretched out. Casper Kelly fleshed this out a little bit more, literally and figuratively. Also, I think this had a bigger budget than Monkey's Merry-Go-Round, because that really did seem like it was just taking place on a set. And credit to them for doing that. But Buddy is just, it just has a whole lot of fun to it. A lot of good dark comedy before things really ramp up. And I really had a whole lot of fun with this. So check it out in theaters when you can. I believe it's out this weekend, along with a few others like Dog Stars and Finding Emily, and others I will be putting on my Letterboxd. Speaking of which, I put a Letterboxd review up of this and others if you want to check it out. No, I'm not doing as many reviews as I usually do, but occasional ones like this. So it's in theaters this weekend if you want to check it out. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, we get various characters on the set. We have Strappy, who's a backpack, voiced by Patton Oswalt. I wonder why that voice sounded familiar. We have Mr. Mailbox. It actually factors into something a little bit later. We have the Worry Well, that is a well that can grant things. We have Cow Chief. So pretty much we're going with a a dark version of Pee-wee's Playhouse. Betty Bunny was the name of the bunny I was trying to come up with. And Charlie the Train. I did enjoy how Freddy almost immediately sensed that something was wrong. And the thing about these kids is they eventually realize that they're not sure how they got there. We had Freddy, we had Wade, we had Oliver, and we had a new girl, Hannah. Hannah, who suddenly showed, I do have to say the one that plays Hannah, she actually does a really good job, like just being somebody, oh, I love it here, and stuff like that. And they're like, we haven't seen you before. Almost like they swap out cast members and everything, and something weird is going on. So we start off with, like, obviously something really is afoot here. We do have the one that played Matthew in Weapons, Luke Speakman, who plays Josh here, and he doesn't really want to dance. He doesn't really want to do much. The kids go along with this stuff. There is a nurse that's in this that fixes people up. There's Betty Bunny. There's, the mailman, all that stuff and everything. So, really it's just a small, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood thing. And Josh is just reading this book, Wrinkle in Reality, pretty much hitting you over the head that something's not quite right here. It had like a choose your own adventure style deal there. And basically, there's this thing, there's like, the Worry Well can grant wishes also, and he doesn't want to go to this dance, but Buddy gets him these dancing shoes, and he puts them on, and these dancing shoes will only, stop when you do a little bit of dancing and everything, but he doesn't want to, and he keeps taking them off. And Buddy's getting a little bit angrier every single time. Like, this is not going well. This is not going according to Hoyle from Buddy's perspective. And Josh basically pisses him off one too many times. And then, they go off screen and we get an off-screen death. And it's an off-screen death because Josh is like, what are you doing? So the infliction of violence on kids that has not been seen since the Benoit household is maybe something that some people may not care for. Still not as violent as Fritz von Erich was as a father, but I digress. We have a few episodes. That's like one episode, and then we get like a couple others. And it just becomes more obvious, I think, in the second episode where Freddy sees, like, Trashy, the trash can, sees the book, Josh's book, and it looks like it's covered in some kind of paint. Well, maybe it's blood. But Buddy's like, no, it's paint or whatever. I Betty, do something for me. She got paint all over it. And then Betty later says, I never did anything like that. And we also get some glitches of stuff, like in a different reality, like Earth, like almost like something, like this ties into stuff that's going on in the real world that's hassling Rob Thomas. And as things go on, Freddy and Wade kind of, like bond as far as like sensing that something's wrong. You have a kid, Oliver, that's not necessarily certain that something is totally right. I do have to say, the kid, Oliver, the one that played the kid was pretty good. The character is kind of an idiot, actually an absolute idiot. But, all this stuff, they're cleaning, they're doing this fun stuff and whatever. They're just having fun and playing around and doing this, and all this stuff's going on. And, the mailbox, all this happy stuff. But then Wade and Freddie concoct this thing where, oh, I got a splinter, I got to go to the nurse. Gets to this nurse, talks to the nurse, and the nurse is like, like, oh, well, why would you lie about not having a splinter? Well, have you ever noticed something's wrong with Buddy? And by the way, he's a stuffed animal, and if you say his name, he comes to life. If you don't say his name, then he won't. But she's gonna well, I'll talk to him and everything will be fine. And then this is where things really kick in, because Buddy basically is talking to her and they're looking in the window and says, well, yeah, he's hugging her neck really tight and he's choking her and bashing her against the thing. And Buddy has had it. Buddy has had it, like, why would these kids hate what I have brought them, this great, paradise, and all this, and everything is just not going, again, according to Hoyle, for Buddy. And Buddy finally kind of gets a little bit upset. Also, a train shows up with the delivery for Buddy's surprise party. Good train set, by the way. Really good set design, considering I cannot imagine that the budget was more than a few $1 million. I mean, if it was more than 5, I'd be surprised. Not to say that it looked cheap. It's just, given the cast members in it, I actually would be surprised that most of at least half the budget didn't go to the sets. That being said, train brings some deliveries for Buddy's surprise birthday party. Skipping over a few things here, but things finally just come to a goddamn head, because basically Buddy ends up finding out that the kids have been lying to him, that they got into that something has gone on, like they know that something's not right with Buddy, and they want to leave. They get in the train, and they're going to get in the train, and they're going to leave. They know that Josh is dead. They know the nurse is dead. They need to get out of there. So the train's going to take him away, but Buddy's staying in the way and everything. And he's like, well, wait, if you're not feeling well, let's take you to the nurse. Well, why don't you bring the nurse to me? The train's like, that's a great idea. And then Buddy rips his face off and bashes him and everything. It's funny. I mean, it's horrifying, but it's funny. And the kids are freaking out, obviously, as you would understand. And the kids hatch an escape plan. The escape plan basically involves, after this train thing, they end up, after the cleaning montage from earlier, there's like this clean spray, and one of those, like barbecue lighter things that you can use, one of those, like, longer ones. And Wade is talked to by, Buddy, and Buddy's like, Buddy is like stabbing him, basically, like, stop cutting yourself. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, stabbing the black kid, pinning him down. Yeah, it's, yeah, I don't know if we necessarily should have done that. I mean, whatever it is what it was. It was meant in entertainment. It wasn't meant in a mean way from, like, Casper Kelly's perspective, but, ooh. Now, that being said, Freddie's freaking out, Hannah's freaking out, Oliver's freaking out, and Wade's not dead, and they're able to escape because basically, Freddie sprays him with this clean solution stuff and then is gonna set him on fire, but decides not to. And then Wade says, you stabbed me, I set you on fire. It burns half his goddamn body. And he's freaking out, obviously, because it seems like it's fleshy, like that's actually him. It's an actual flesh and blood human being that's in a kid's costume, or kid's show costume. And they end up basically getting over the fence to safety. They're going to go to Diamond City, which is where the train came from, because Diamond City is like, it's like the Emerald City, where the wizard can grant all your dreams, except he's a diamond. Ooh, floating diamond. Anyway, so Wade doesn't make it because Freddy can't quite pull him up. The can comes out from under him. And Buddy, even though he was impaled, or, his unicorn horn was in the tree, he manages to stab Wade right through the goddamn fence. So he's dead, and he stares at him through the goddamn fence, with his bad eye, because it's this side, or it's actually this side. And now we have Oliver, we have Freddie, we have Hannah. They're looking out and wondering where the hell they're going to go. They're on this forest set outside the playground. And yeah, so that's it right there. And then we cut to a family. Where we have Grace, Kristen Miliotti, who was a Sophia Falcone Punch in the Penguin. She's also been in some other stuff. Grace is a very Kristen's a very lovely woman. I will say that much. Holy shit! But that being said, Topher Grace is her husband. They have 2 kids, and one of the sons has he's a young kid, but he seems to, a little nerdy, but it seems to have a good head on his shoulders. Another one's a little bit more of a teenager. Gets a goldfish from this party. Oh, they're just handing out goldfish, to everybody. That seems like really stupid. What if you don't want to take care of a goldfish? But I digress. And the mother's talking and says, well, didn't you used to have a goldfish and stuff like that? And no, I never did. Not when you were younger. Maybe it was your brother. So it seems like something's not quite right with the mother. Now, what I thought the mother, I thought Grace was going to be one of the other kids, just grown up, had escaped outside this kid's set. I was sort of right. Things start to unravel pretty quickly. Grace sees like this empty chair at the dinner table while everybody's having dinner and starts screaming. She starts snapping a little bit. Not at the kids, but like just fracturing her reality because sensing that something's not quite right. This is where things rush a little bit. Like they did so much good building with like 3 episodes of It's Buddy and all the stuff that happened where the kids ended up in the forest, jungle, whatever. That now it almost feels like we're rushing this stuff. And that was pretty much my only complaint about this. I'm not saying I wanted this film to be 2 hours. I think it could have been paced a little bit better. Just a little bit better. Now, Grace is researching and stuff. She's trying to find out, like what's going on. She talks to a therapist. Can I get some meds? And then there's this like clairvoyant, like scam lady, Claire. I have to say she played her role really well, whoever it was. But while, trying to do a seance, suddenly the TV comes up. And it's Buddy on the TV. And what the shit's going on here? They see the TV, the family does. They see the show, but it doesn't really register with them. Grace can't find anything about the show, what the hell's going on. Suddenly, Buddy comes up on the TV, and this is right after her and Topher Grace had like a bit of an argument about the state of their family because she senses that they had another child or whatever, and that child has just disappeared. And he's like, oh, so it's been erased from all our memories and erased from the Social Security office and all that stuff. And that's where, like maybe a little more explanation might have suited. But that being said, she gets dragged into the TV because Buddy gets his hand on there, drags her in there. It's actually a pretty funny part where she's trying to get herself out of the TV and trying to get her husband. But at this point, she's out of the reality. It's almost like she didn't exist. And he's trying to take care of the kids. She ends up getting sucked into the TV. Now she's the nurse. I do have to say, Kristen in a nurse outfit. Not a kink I expected to enjoy, but there we are. So she's there and now she's the nurse. And there was actually one thing that she did before with her youngest boy, putting 2 Band-Aids on like this. So, they could support each other. And Grace ends up as the nurse there. The kids, meanwhile, go off and they're on an adventure to Diamond City. They do run into a swamp part where Buddy actually finds them. This is after he talks to Nurse Grace and is a little bit too handsy with her. After she tries to bandage him, it's a little bit much. And he carries a fire axe with him, and he's going to go help the kids by killing them. Goes out there, kids are doing what they're doing, and they escape from him. They end up, and they have, by the way, Mr. Mailbox, who has his door ripped off, so he can't talk, basically. And also Strappy the backpack. Now, they end up at this Old West part where they talk to a dummy that's voiced by Michael Shannon and also Clint Howard. Yes, Clint Howard is in this. Looking every bit the 80,000 years old that he is. I actually think he's only in his 70s, but still, bless Clint Howard. He really does make the most of any role that he has. But he's like an old prospector. And it's just so funny because there's this just ridiculous stuff where how they interact. But there's one creepy moment, and Clint intentionally did this as a way to make his character unsettling. Clint actually doesn't like this, but said to Hannah, the one that, wait, we haven't seen you before. You got such a pretty face, girl. Oh God, my skin fucking crawled. It's like gross, man, gross. So anyway, they share their supplies and have to, get there and have to, get to Diamond City. Also, now that they're out of the kids', playground area, the house deal, they experience things they have not experienced before. They've never experienced nighttime, or they've never experienced, weird stuff, even though I think it's gone the night before in that area, so that made no sense. But Oliver never felt like he had to go to the bathroom, pissed on a flower at one point, which is kind of funny. And then after talking to Clint Howard and Michael Shannon, the dummy, there's this funny part right after he says, you got such a pretty face. Oh, what, I'm not good enough for you? No, you are. And he's making out with the ventriloquist dummy. And I don't know why that's so funny, but it was. The audience I was watching it with was having a blast. Essentially, we see kind of what ends up happening with these guys, because they as far as their nefarious reasons for inviting these 3 children to just sit around this fire. I mean, yeah, it's a fire the kids created, but still, it turns out that these 2 actually used to be part of Buddy's flock, but then escaped. As you'll find out in a bit, it doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense how they survived out here. But they take some flowers that end up basically tasting like butterscotch, but also drug the kids, and then the kids get their supplies taken, and including Strappy, the backpack. And Freddy's really attached to that, despite the fact she's been carrying this mailbox and but wants to go back for Strappy. They're going to go to Diamond City, but first they have to go get Strappy. So Buddy, by the way, shows up and axes Clint Howard in the head, throws the dummy in the goddamn water, and then Freddy, all's forgiven if you'll just come back. And then, because he's torturing Strappy and ripping him and everything, but then gets Strappy, and they get Strappy and they team up on these bikes and everything and get away. And they get to Diamond City, but Diamond City's just a set, so they're not sure what the hell to do. But then basically they end up back on the goddamn set, because Buddy ends up basically getting them. And the idea is Buddy has to find a way to end this episode so he can heal. That's the thing. He can heal, everything will be okay, everything will be reset. That's what he needs to do. So he ends up doing that. The kids are back there. Oh, and there's a new kid. It's not Wade, now it's Tyler. They need another black kid on there. No, really, that's what they end up doing. And Grace is just still the nurse. Everything seems right as rain, except obviously the 3 kids that escaped are not terribly happy. Hannah's trying to play along. Oliver's not necessarily thrilled either. Freddy ends up getting hurt at one point because Buddy ends up hurting her, so she goes to see the nurse. And it's I probably should have guessed it way before, but yeah, that's her kid that got pulled into the whole thing. The 2 band-aids across, all that. So now, basically, the idea is Grace wants to try to save her daughter. And one of the things that Clint Howard and and Michael Shannon's ventriloquist dummy said was they came up with, or somebody else came up with a variation like "I hate you," or "I hate you, buddy," that kind of stuff. It's like, "You're my enemy," however the song went. They're going to come up with something like that and basically shatter Buddy's mentality. And Buddy, by the way, is all healed, but he's fractured mentally. They end up basically finally just fully snapping. They're going to do this. And they turn Buddy into basically Dark Buddy because he sheds all his stuff. And my God, he's going to attack him. This is where the limited budget kind of has a bit of an issue because, I mean, doing the Kermit flail, not quite like the one from Rock and Roll Nightmare or The Edge of Hell. If you get it, you get it. But yeah, Dark Buddy just goes insane. Basically ends up killing the rabbit, ripping the rabbit's head off, ripping up Couchy, which is kind of good. Grace is going to help the kids escape. Any way that they're going to do is they're going to get to the well. They're going to get to the wishing or the worry well, and they're going to climb down, and they're going to find a way to get out. Grace decides to sacrifice herself rather stupidly, by even though she got Freddy Bean back, that was her kid. That was the kid's nickname, and Mama Bean was Mommy Bean was her nickname. And yeah, Grace ends up putting up a bit of a fight, but then ends up dying. It's like, that's the only thing where I didn't quite like that, because I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess, like, I know it sounds like I'm down on this, but it's like, just the more I think about it, and I'm not trying to nitpick, but there are just things that could have been done a little better. The kids do end up escaping down into the deal. Buddy then gets hugged by Tyler, and Tyler heals him, and he's great. But I have to go get your friend. So he tries to go down the well, and he can't get down the well because he's too big. So the kids get down there. They try to get in this door. And Buddy then decides to cut off the flabby parts here of the end and cut that off. And I know that we all want to lose weight, but that's not the way to do it. And he fits down there, somehow not bleeding out. And they get into the kids get into this one little area where there's like this, it almost looked like an older Buddy and a workshop thing with all these knickknacks. And then Hannah is trying to keep the door closed. Do you hear him? Nope. She gets dragged through there. Oliver ends up stupidly buying into the fact that Buddy wants to hug him. Buddy eats him. And meanwhile, Freddy is carrying, and she had a pretty good heart-to-heart with her mother, but carrying Mr. Mailbox and Strappy, she manages to get into this area, or get out this door, into like what almost looks like a school or a detention center. And every room she goes to, there's like, weird like government stuff, like, weird metal pieces are like hooked up to the Buddy stuff. Or there's the other mailboxes. Like they're training for this show to, go on and on. Because Buddy's there, but there are two others on this poster, Bobby and Benny, implying that either Buddy is the final form or we've got two others to worry about, and Casper Kelly is planning to make a trilogy. Freddy ends up basically running, trying to run away, and the whole theme of this is you have to face your fears in order to be brave. Well, he's finally able to do that. Strappy ends up getting his, deals out, like his straps out, trips Buddy, and Buddy falls right on Mr. Mailbox because she impales him, and he's like, oh, I knew you'd be brave. I'd like to think I had a hand in that. Oh, it's like, I love you, you love, it's like, we love, it's all that, and he ends it with bitch, which just popped the audience. That was great. And then she's going through this one area, sees these TVs, like the bunch of like, little TVs and everything hooked up, like in, like where all these kids could reach through and everything, and Buddy could handpick the ones. Now, the thing is, Buddy's dead. So one kid tries to reach through, she pushes his hand back, and she sees what looks like maybe a home. Now, mind you, their home switched a little bit when Grace got sucked into the TV. So basically, Freddy goes through, and now Mr. Mailbox is just a mailbox, and Strappy is just a backpack. So she's freaking out, and it must be Mexico or maybe in Spain, but this one guy says, "Who are you?" And it ends right there, and we go to the credits, and we go Buddy, and everything, and yeah, there we go. That is Buddy. That went way longer than I expected, but I did end up having a lot of fun talking about it. So yeah, quite good. I really enjoyed it. Flaws and all, A+. Had a lot of fun with it. Encourage you guys to check it out as soon as you can. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and until we see if Buddy, oh Buddy, will be all cuddly, wuddly, and our best friend. Probably not, because he's vile. Great voice by Keegan-Michael Key, by the way. But until we see what other kid stuff happens in the horror section, happy trails to you.